Hi, welcome back to the Wow YouTube channel. It's Jane here, and today I've got a little project for you featuring some stenciling with your embossing inks and powders. Now at the moment, Wow have got a special offer on all of their quads, trios and duos, so I'm going to pop the code up here, and I thought that I'd use one of their duos for this project. So this one is called the Celestial Harmony Duo, and it's comprised of these two powders, which are the Opal Glow and the Violet Aurora, and both of them are full of this gorgeous kind of rainbowy iridescent shimmer, which is the real disco-y, spacey vibe that I'm going for to go with this little Furby character that I've coloured in, and he is from the Sassy Club. I'll link everything below that I've used. So I thought this disco ball stencil would be a really good one for the background. So I'm just taping that into place with some low tack tape. The stencil is from Erin Lee Creative. And what I'm doing here is just re-inking my embossing ink pad before I get started, just to make sure that it's nice and juicy. So I'm using Wow's rollerball tool here and just going in small circles all over the surface of the ink pad, and that absorbs it super quickly. So it's really, really easy to do, and you are good to go. So a little tip that I would suggest when you are using your embossing ink through stencils is to use a dauber like this one. I've got a little mini dauber which helps, get into small areas. And I would just pounce it through the stencil rather than trying to blend in circular motions, which is probably going to get under those lines of the stencil. And because this is quite a detailed stencil, I want to make sure that I'm maintaining those really crisp, clear lines. So just pouncing that directly from the top reduces any chances of the ink going anywhere that you don't want it to go. So I'm starting off with the Violet Aurora powder. I've given it a shake to make sure that all of the elements are nicely mixed, and we're going to get a bit of everything on our project. And then I'm just tapping this directly onto my card. Just taking care to avoid the low tack tape, because I don't want all of my embossing powder sticking to that. So I'm just going to let the excess fall off onto the page and just tap the excess off. And you'll see that's done a pretty good job. So I'm just going to come in with my heat gun now, and I've preheated this for about 60 seconds to make sure it's nice and hot. And I am heat setting this from the back. And the reason that I do that is because the embossing powder is full of glitter and other elements. And if you heat it from the top sometimes, they can just get blown straight away by the heat gun. So always better when you've got a powder that's got glitter and other elements to heat it from the bottom. So I'm just going back in with my embossing ink again. I'm going over some of the areas that I didn't cover earlier, so I can apply my second powder, which is the Opal Glow. So I'm just popping that all over the stencil and tapping off the excess. Now I didn't treat my card with anti-static powder, and the reason for this is because Wow's powders are treated with anti-static properties. So generally speaking, you are not going to get powder where you don't want it to go. However, because my fingers are a bit inky, some of that stickiness is obviously transferred to the card when I've been handling it, and so I've got a little bit of powder where I don't want it to go, and that's really easily fixed. I just keep a dry paintbrush that I just use for this exact purpose, and that's just to swipe away that excess powder, and it comes off really, really easily. So I'm just going to heat set this again, and you can see as this is melting how it's going from that powdery finish to that lovely shimmery, shiny, iridescent finish, which I am just obsessed with. So I'm going to go back in for a third time because I wanted to add a little bit more purple to the disco ball. So I'm just repeating the exact same process, pouncing the ink through the stencil, applying my powder and heat setting from underneath. And I wish you could see through the camera how amazing this looks in real life, because honestly, the camera just doesn't seem to do it justice. It is so shiny. It looks like, a rainbow or an oil slick when the light shines on it, that iridescence. It's really amazing, and I don't know how they do it, but they do, and it's fantastic. So to finish off my card, I'm bringing over our heat emboss panel and popping it into my MISTI, and then I'm getting the sentiment from that Sassy Club stamp set, which says, "Thanks for being amazing," which I love. I love a good pun. I'm just inking it up with some VersaFine Onyx black ink. It's my favourite ink for sentiments because it's really nice, and it's a dark black and it's very crisp. And then to go with that iridescent embossing powder, I've decided to use this holographic cardstock, and this again is from Erin Lee Creative. It came in the same set that Stencil did. It was the Taylor Swift theme set that she did a year or two ago, and I've been meaning to get around to using it for ages, and I finally have, which is good timing given that The Life of a Showgirl is just been released. We got any other crafty Swifties in the audience? Let me know. Drop us a comment and let me know what you think of the new album. So I am just popping some foam tape all over the back of this panel. If you've got a bit of warping on your card panel, which you might do when we've heat embossed so much of the surface area, one of the good things that you can do to flatten that down is to pop something like foam tape on the back. I've covered all of mine in foam tape, which is probably a bit excessive, but I'm planning on sending this through the post, so I don't want it sagging in any places. So I'm just popping that down onto the holographic cardstock, which I've cut down to an A2, US A2 card size, so that's 4¼ wide by 5½ tall. And then I'm just going to do the same thing and add my Furby on with some foam squares as well. But before I do that, I have got a little white eraser, and I'm just rubbing any areas of the card which might have the odd speck of embossing powder that has been heat set onto the card, and that just lifts it away. So another handy little tip there, if you've got some embossing where you don't want it, then a white eraser can actually help to remove that from your page. And I'm very sorry if you just heard my dog snoring in the background. They're Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, and they're the ultimate Velcro dogs. Wherever you go, they go. So you might often hear them in the background on my videos. But that is the end of this card. So I hope you have enjoyed that. I hope it has been helpful and has given you some tips on how to emboss through stencils. There's the details of the offer that's on at the moment. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to spending some time with you again soon. Bye.